In this video, I'm going to talk about Piper's values, our strategy, and our philosophy for marketing. Everything starts with the three core values of Piper: kindness, patience, and integrity. Kindness is incredibly important because we are a team of collaborative creatives. We need to work together really, really well, and no one wants to work with a jerk. Kindness allows communication to be empathic, us to fall in the category of radical candor as opposed to ruinous empathy or obnoxious aggression. And similarly, the patience required to build something for the long term allows us to make kinder decisions as it pertains to the services that we bring our clients, the way we treat every single team member, every single person that enters the Piper universe, and helps us make choices that are strategic that will play out over a longer time horizon. We're not on the VC treadmill. We're not trying to get to some crazy metric or point of profitability in the short term at the sacrifice of building something that is sustainable for the long term. And across the board, that integrity allows us to clearly state those values and allow those values to show up in our content to attract the right type of people and to make sure that we are who we say we are. A lot of corporations can throw some values up on some chart, painted on the wall, and not necessarily live those out. But because we are building something for the long term, it makes these values incredibly important. And if we fail to live up to those standards, it can corrode the entire organization. As of right now, Piper is an agency. We have a small events business. We do sell advertising in the way that a media company would, but more than 80% of the company revenue is agency services. That business structure breaks down into three core components: fulfillment or production, back office, administration, and sales. Sales biz dev is my primary responsibility. I'm in charge of getting people in the door, getting them to sign on the line that is dotted and fulfill their obligations and expectations as our clients. From a back office administration standpoint, that stands for finance, legal, ops, project management, everything associated with making sure that everything is going out and coming in on time, that there is a organization and a sense to be made from all this chaos that is created, and to make life as easy as possible for production. Production is headed up by Hannah, co-founder of Piper Creative and chief creative officer. It is the vision for the videos that we produce for clients, the podcasts that we make for large Fortune 500s and small companies as well, and the wide variety of content that we produce for Piper's own channels. And that is a really important part of our strategy. We are not just making content for clients, we are making it for ourselves. And by doing it for ourselves, we get more real-time feedback, more iterations at our approach, which allows us in turn to provide better service to our clients. That iterative approach is our own efforts to take people from completely unaware of Piper, who we are, what we do, what we're about, and the services that we offer, all the way to not just a client, but hopefully a raving fan. By having raving fans, you create a reflexive cycle where they in turn bring more people into the top of the funnel of awareness for Piper and our services and all of our offerings. And nurturing that person all the way through is what we continue to try and get better and better and better at. We do not assume that every single person that enters the Piper universe will one day pay us, will one day become a customer or a client. We simply want the value associated with their attention. If they are not the right person to be a client or customer of us, they probably know someone who is. So by continuing to expand our audience through YouTube content, through LinkedIn content, through podcast episodes, and all the other various forms of communication that we put out on our own channels, we know that we are getting ever closer to the next sale. That framework and philosophy informs the volume of content that we put out. On a sliding scale, we err slightly on the side of quantity over quality, but there is a beautifully interwoven relationship between the two. Because we put out so much, so frequently, so often, we not only fill these channels regularly with content, but we get more bites at the apple in terms of improving our approach. Our thrice weekly show, The Piper Rundown, is iterated upon every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We get better at selecting topics. We get better at the design of the piece of content. We get better at how it's shot, and we get better at communicating as a team on its execution. By continually iterating, what we're able to produce 1 year later after the inception of that show is exponentially improved. And that sensibility then gets brought not only to the other things that we produce for ourselves, but that which we produce for our clients. Because the iteration associated with that content is so important, we have a tiered hierarchy of the work associated with Piper. And counterintuitively, the base, the foundation of those priorities is actually our own systematic content. We not only see how that contributes to being able to deliver better service to our clients, we also know the important role that it plays in bringing in the next buyer. Right now, we have 4 pillars of that base foundation systematic content. The first is a weekly vlog dropping every Thursday called This is Piper. There's also the Piper Rundown, which drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's the Going Deep podcast, which drops once a week and involves an interview of a thoughtful entrepreneur, business leader, investor, or other character that we want to learn from. And there is a once weekly newsletter every Tuesday morning called Expand Your Mind that goes out to a list of email subscribers. After those obligations and the obligations associated with our client relationships are completed, we then have space in our day, in our schedule, for experimental work. This is where we might find the next recurring segment of content that we want to produce, or simply expand our skills to be able to meet more needs in the future. That looks like animation, that looks like more writing, that looks like experimental styles of videos, or different topics of discussion, be it music, art, or sports. In order to produce so much content, we have to get really good at training people for this large volume style of media production. The primary role that we start our creatives in learning is called a podcast ninja. A podcast ninja blends the technical acumen of in-person production, the editorial taste required to make choices about which pieces of content to feature, and the capacity, project management, and organization skills to produce a lot of things in a short amount of time. Go to pipercreative.co/podcastninja to learn more about how you can become a podcast ninja or train someone to do it for you. As an organization that is highly reliant upon the talents and capabilities of the people on our team in order to succeed, we are hyper aware and hyper vigilant to the triggers that could lead to someone leaving our organization for greener pastures. Because our team relies so much on iterating together, collaborating together, and building off of one another's talents, it is incredibly important that we keep these people in the Piper universe for as long as possible. That being said, someone gets a great offer, we celebrate them and see them off with a smile and a nod. But in order to try to keep as many people in Piper's world as possible, we've set up a system by which creatives can progress through multiple stages and get maximum satisfaction as their skills continue to develop. Most people that join Piper for the first time, as they're learning the Podcast Ninja skill set, are focused primarily on the low-hanging fruit and the repetitious, systematic content that we're putting out. As they develop their skills, as they prove their capacity to hit deadlines, and they reach a point where they are familiar with the Piper style and ethos, they're able to graduate into working on client work. Client work does have a higher standard that it may be subject to, and will have strict deadlines that we are obligated to meet as a part of our client obligations. But if client obligations are the highest ideal of what working at Piper can be, then we are letting ourselves potentially and likely fall risk and prey to creatives getting burnt out and leaving for elsewhere. So on the other side of that valley, they can reach a point where they are producing self-guided content that is a part of Piper's content ecosystem, that is more experimental, that is more intensely and intimately satisfying to their own creative pursuits and endeavors. And as that grows and becomes a potential vehicle for future Piper business endeavors, they get the benefit of greater creative satisfaction, and we get the benefit of them still being in the Piper universe, not only as a generator of new leads and new business opportunities, but as a mentor to the next generation of creatives who want to climb the same ladder. If that sounds like a wonderfully self-reinforcing cycle, you're right, and it is not the only one that we've built into Piper's operations. As is clear from earlier in the video, audience growth is the core of what we're doing. But as the audience grows, we know that will contribute to more leads coming in the door. Those leads will lead to more sales, more revenue, which increases our budget. That budget is going to be deployed into more content, be it experimental, be it just more of the stuff that's already working. And as that happens, our audience will grow at an accelerated rate. This will continue to reinforce itself, hopefully in perpetuity. Hannah and I have made the explicit decision to maximize our reinvestment into the business, that is both in the investment of software and systems that make Piper function, the people that allow us to scale our content and produce more than any other firm of a similar size, and to continue to invest in upgrading our gear. Especially in the early stages of a business, there is a trifecta of constraints to which every entrepreneur must choose two of the three: maximum autonomy, strong growth, and high pay for the founders. We are forgoing high pay in the earliest days of Piper in order to optimize for the growth of the company and maximum autonomy. Autonomy is the guiding light for both me and Hannah because we highly prioritize the ability to not only follow our guts when it comes to making decision making, but to pursue the creative endeavors that give us the most fulfillment. We know that if we accomplish that for ourselves, it is highly likely that we will be able to recreate those same circumstances for the folks that stick with us. If you've watched this far, you probably think, man, it seems like they have a lot figured out. And we do have a very clear vision for what we're building, a very clear idea of how what we have right now works, but we also know that there's a lot yet to learn. And that's yet another instance where the content that we put out continues to benefit us. When we put out all this content, we are sharing as much as we can about what we've learned and what we know. And that's a great way to transfer education to our audience that will feel more loyal to us because of what they've learned from consuming our content. But similarly, we get an opportunity to learn from that audience, not only what they find resonant, not only what they engage with, but also when we have basic questions, basic confusions. Maybe we're making an obvious mistake out in public because of the transparency associated with putting out so much content. We have had countless people already reach out to us with advice, be it in the legal realm, the financial realm, people recognizing that we don't have all of our trademarks figured out, or countless other things that I'm probably already forgetting. By continuing to put out that content and continuing to get that real-time feedback, we get to learn faster than the competition. And that is an edge that, as it compounds, I am confident will continue to differentiate Piper in the future.